Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lincoln Riley, USC, putting the finishing touches on fall camp heading into 2025. And it's been a very busy last couple of weeks. I feel like we've learned a lot about this football team. I figured we'd have a sit down conversation, kind of empty the notebook, so to speak, talk about the names that have generated the most amount of buzz. The big takeaway I have for USC going into 2025 is in this era of college football, especially with how prevalent the transfer portal has been, a lot of people evaluate teams in the offseason based on the additions, based on the new names that you have coming into the program. And I'm looking at USC and say, hey, I think they made some really important additions to this football team. The storyline for me is the player development. The players that have already been on this roster now going into 2025. Sounds like we got a lot of players that are taking that step. And look, I don't think it's all that surprising. One of the most under talked about aspects about this program, at least in my opinion, is the coaching staff that Lincoln Riley has put together in this era. We talk a lot about new talent. We talk a lot about players, and I'm not saying that personnel and players and talent doesn't matter. I think USC has a serious edge here when it comes to the coaching staff. It's a very, very impressive coaching staff, and I think you're starting to see that play out with some of the development that we have for some of these players on this roster. Want to get into, I think, the names that excite me the most going into 2025, coming out of fall camp. I also made a few changes to the depth chart as well. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, to the USC fans, appreciate you guys. We are inside of 2 weeks before we're kicking off some football. The amount of support that many of y'all have shown the boys all off season long, talking official visits, talking about commitments. It's been a blast. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And I also say this, I limited this exercise to one name at each position group. That's actually a lie. I definitely cheated, add a few more names. But if I miss a name that you think kind of piqued your interest or generated some buzz, call your shot in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start QB1 Jaden. Here's my take on Jaden going into 2025, and we've talked a ton about this kid. It's one thing to hear about Jaden taking the step during fall camp. I think we all are looking forward to seeing what that looks like when the bullets start flying, because that's the best way to evaluate, especially a quarterback like Jaden. When the bullets get real and you're suiting up on Saturdays, he's a guy that can make a lot of dynamic plays, can be a creator much more than Miller Moss could last year. But at the same time, when he does decide to create, he also gets himself into some trouble as well. How does it look for this kid when he does want to go create? Can he walk that line? The line that Caleb Williams always seemed to walk so well, where I'm going to be a difference maker. I'm going to get outside the pocket, throw off platform, make a lot of high level throws. But at the same time, I'm going to limit the amount of times I put the ball in harm's way. Because again, you don't want to take that part of Jaden's game out of him. It's what makes him potentially a special quarterback, but you got to walk the line a little bit better. We're going to find out over the next couple of weeks if he has taken that step, because again, I like what I'm hearing from him out of fall camp. We got to go see it when the bullets get real on Saturdays. Number 2 running back, this one super, super easy. It's Wayman Jordan. I think they did it again. Like, USC has hit on some. I know Wayman Jordan, I know, coming from JUCO, but I essentially kind of count him as a transfer portal addition. USC has hit on running backs in the portal over the last couple of years. I think they did it once again with Wayman Jordan. I think he's the most complete running back in this room. That's not saying Brian Jackson and Eli Sanders don't get a decent amount of work, because both B. Jack and Eli Sanders provide skill sets that are unique and that can provide value. You're talking about the kid that's going to get 20 plus carries a game. I think that's pretty dang clearly Wayman Jordan. Wide receiver position. And look, I didn't go with Jacoby Lane, didn't go with Mekhi Lemon. Those are two known commodities. That's what makes this USC wide receiver room, to me, one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. The storyline for me was who is going to be that third wide receiver. Corey Sims, I don't know if it's going to be immediate for this kid because he is a true freshman. And I'm a big fan of Zach Williams coming from Utah, too. I think Corey Sims at some point during the 2025 year does emerge as that wide receiver 3. I think he's one of the more complete wide receivers that you see on this roster. He's a big body that can work vertically down the field, but also give you value after the catch. Most importantly to Corey Sims, the thing that's fired me up the most about Corey Sims, what I'm hearing about this kid as a blocker on the perimeter. Because you make no mistake about it, Lincoln Riley is going to design and scheme this offense around Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. As many different ways as we can get the football into their hands as possible, that's what we're going to be trying to do. So you need your wide receiver 3. Hey, we got to go win when it's time to go win and make plays. But at the same time, we got to be a dog on the perimeter blocking because you know Mekhi Lemon is going to have the football in his hands a lot. And to hear that Corey Sims, who is 6'3", 210 pounds, to hear that he's getting it done on the perimeter as a run block, or I shouldn't say run blocker, but a blocker on the perimeter, that's really good news for USC. And it kind of makes me feel like he's going to find his way onto the football field. Offensive line, but by far the biggest storyline for this football team in 2025. I think we know that the USC offensive line is not going to be the best unit in the country. I think the idea is, you look at what Chad Bowden's doing on the recruiting trail. The idea is to get USC's offensive line to be one of the best units over the next couple of years, based on what they're doing in terms of recruiting. We're probably not going to be there in 2025. My question is it going to be a problem, right? It sounds like Micah is a guy that USC is starting to trust at guard, especially if DJ Wingfield is not going to get his year of eligibility. The other thing is Tobias Raymond. They might be the two most important players on this offensive line because, hey, can you be really good at right tackle? If Tobias Raymond can be a guy that we trust at right tackle, that means we got the tackle position figured out. And if Micah can kind of put it together at left guard, then we don't have to mess around with Tobias kicking in the guard. I think, is it an option? Like to get Tobias on the football field at guard? Absolutely. But if Tobias Raymond is showing you that he's your best option at right tackle, I don't want to start moving him around. So to hear that Tobias Raymond, at least from what we're hearing, is kind of locking down that right tackle spot. And then Micah seemingly is a guy that I don't know if he's going to be awesome, but I think he's a trustworthy guard to go out there and play. That answers the two biggest question marks that we have with this USC offensive line. I think it's imperative for USC to stay healthy on the offensive line. But if they do, and Mike is the guy that we're hearing he is in fall camp, and Tobias Raymond is the guy we're hearing he is in fall camp, it shouldn't be a problem. And that's really the goal for USC. Like, look, in 3 years, this offensive line has the opportunity to be really good because that's what they're doing on the recruiting trail. In 2025, we just have to avoid the offensive line being a problem because there's other parts about this offense that we think can be really successful. Tobias, Micah, two guys that are generating the most buzz up front. Defensive side of the football, and this has been the talk of USC in fall camp, is like that there's legitimate optimism that this defense can be really dang good. And I think you have the pieces to be good. And number one, I think you got one of the best defensive coaching staffs and defensive coordinators that we see in the country. And I think you've addressed what you needed to address specifically on the defensive line. Now, here's the storyline. As much as we want to talk about Keyshawn Silver, as much as we want to talk about Josh Jarrett, as much as we want to talk about a guy like Jakeem Stewart, I think the storyline is some of these guys that were already on this football team last year that are making the jump going into 2025. To me, it's Devin Tompkins. This is such a fascinating storyline. If Devin Tompkins is the football player that we are hearing he is in fall camp, he all of a sudden becomes the poster boy for Coach Henney development on the defensive line. When you're going out on the recruiting trail and you're trying to recruit these elite defensive linemen to USC, you're pointing at Devin Tompkins, a guy that came into this program around 230 pounds, better basketball player than he was football player. Coach Henney comes in, and immediately after 2 years, Devin Tompkins might be one of the better interior defensive linemen that we see in the Big Ten. I look at Devin Tompkins and say, can he be the guy that can provide the pass rush presence in the middle of that defensive line? And Keyshawn Silver, Jarrett, even a guy like Kobe Pepe, like I think they can be your run stoppers. The guys that are doing dirty work, holding up at the point of attack, we're looking to get better as pass rush unit. Devin Tompkins is the answer. I think Jide Abasiri going into year 2, that's another guy that could be the poster boy for development. Like Jide was a 3-star prospect. He's going into his redshirt freshman year. Now, I don't even think, I think it's going to be a sophomore. I think he played enough to not be a redshirt freshman this year. Jide is going into year 2 as a guy that he's a guy that sounds like can give a lot of pass rush juice as well. Devin Tompkins, Jide on the inside. We know we're going to be better against the run because we added bodies like Keyshawn Silver and Jarrett. We have Eric Gentry coming back at backer. Like we're going to be better against the run. To me, how good can we be getting after the passer? It starts with Devin Tompkins. On the outside, look, Anthony Lucas. I think you're going to see Devin Tompkins, or excuse me, Cam Fountain. I think you're going to see Cam Fountain get the superstar treatment. I think he's the best pass rusher on this football team, especially coming off the edge. Tight ends are going to be chipping. Running backs are going to be helping. You might see some double teams go Cam Fountain's way. My storyline is who's the guy on the other side? And can the guy on the other side really put it together as somebody who can win when putting in the right spots? Anthony Lucas coming back from injury. Braylon Shelby going into year 3. Those guys to me are really important. And look, I think we're hearing the right things about Anthony Lucas. Now, the thing with Anthony Lucas is we've heard about this kid in fall camp before. Go back to 2023. He sounded like he was one of the best defensive linemen on this roster in fall camp. Didn't get a ton of opportunity with Alex Grinch as their defensive coordinator. Anthony Lucas, to start 2024, I thought was playing some quality football and then goes down with the injury. Can 2025 be the year he puts it all together? He's going to have the opportunity to get after the passer. Can he be the pass rusher that we know he can be? Because you look at Anthony Lucas against the run and say he's a stalwart, man. Like we're really, really good against the run, but we need him to take the step as a pass rusher going into 2025. Linebacker position, the storyline is Desmond Stevens. I'm becoming very confident that this kid can be really good for USC in 2025. There's 2 big storylines. Number one, his ceiling is astronomically higher than guys like Mason Cobb and Easton Mascarenas Arnold. Number 2, the more confidence we have with Desmond Stevens, the more creative we can get with Eric Gentry. Like, look, if we don't trust Desmond Stevens all that much at backer, we probably got to keep Eric Gentry on a little bit of a leash and have him be that off-ball linebacker. If we trust Desmond Stevens to play that off-ball backer spot at a really high level, then we can start getting creative with Eric Gentry. Put him on the edge, have him rush the passer. The more you can maximize Eric Gentry, the better this defense will be. But we have to have trust in Desmond Stevens to be a guy that can play and be reliable at a high level. And it sounds like we got that. I mean, they brought in Tamir Robinson to push Desmond Stevens. And it sounds like that's not really a competition anymore. Desmond Stevens going to be your starting backer. In the secondary, this is the big change I made to the depth chart. I think there's a good chance we see DJ Harvey play nickel. I think it's his best position. A 5'9", good short area quicks, really good tackler. I look at DJ Harvey and say, when he goes to the NFL, if he goes to the NFL, I think it's going to be at nickel. Now, in order to move DJ Harvey to nickel, especially with the injury to Prophet Brown, you have to have some other boundary cornerbacks step up. We've heard good things about DeCarlos Nicholson. We've heard really good things about Braylon Conley as well. The idea that we trust those two, along with Chasen Johnson, that gives us the flexibility to put DJ Harvey as a nickel defender, which might be the best lineup USC can play. Again, I think the benefit for USC is you got a couple of games to really figure it out, like opening up against Missouri State, then I believe Georgia Southern. We got 2 preseason games to figure out what our best lineup is. This might be it. Now, the other conversation is, look, Alex Graham, I think he's going to play. He might be the freshman that logs the most snaps out of any freshman on this football team. Guy that can play safety, can play the nickel as well. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, can come up and support the run. He's a guy that has kind of put himself in contention as well. We've learned a lot about this football team. I think we can count on this defense to keep us in a lot of football games. I think we can count on Lincoln Riley to put points up on the board. This offensive line, like I look at it and say that this team can surprise a lot. the offensive line has a very important impact on this football team. If it doesn't come together, you're looking maybe 8-4. If it does come together and this offensive line is not a problem in 2025, you're looking at it potentially 10-2, 11-1. Hey, we're going to be in the college football playoff conversation, but the offensive line needs to figure itself out. That does happen. This is going to be a very dangerous football team. It's a lot deeper of a football team too, 100%. Good coaching staff, a lot of depth. You still got question marks, but there's a lot of things to like too. We'll close it out there. Those are my fall camp winners. And kind of on to the season now, like a little game prep, talking about some matchups. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.